Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Holly Pritchard, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Flight Lieutenant Jason Weatherby. This evening, we are honoured to acknowledge Her Excellency Mrs. Chaltu Sanai, Minister for the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, Urban Development and Infrastructure, accompanied by His Excellency Mr. Hadera Abera, Ambassador of Ethiopia, and Mr. Anwar Mukhtar Mohammed, Deputy Head of Mission, Ethiopia, and the accompanying delegation. We welcome the veterans who have served, those who are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony around Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you are able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Flying Officer Bruce Lionel Poole. Bruce Poole was born on the 17th of July, 1916, in the Sydney suburb of Croydon, the son of Lionel and Pauline Poole. By the time of the Second World War, Poole was living with his parents in Coorparoo in Brisbane, studying at the University of Queensland. In 1941, he served with the Australian Army Medical Corps and the Australian Army Service Corps, earning the rank of sergeant before being discharged to join the Royal Australian Air Force on the 7th of December, 1941. Poole attended elementary flight training school at Narromine, service flight training school at Bundaberg, bombing and gunnery school at Evans Head, and aerial navigation school at Parkes. Having received his Aerial Observer's Badge in late January 1943, on the 22nd of April, he joined No. 1 Operational Training Unit. Located at East Sale, this unit trained men for multi-engined aircraft operations. While he was there, Poole attended various courts-martial as a form of instruction. This continued into the following year, with Poole regularly flying to Canberra to attend district courts. On the 2nd of August, 1943, Flying Officer Poole transferred to No. 13 Squadron in the Northern Territory. Though the squadron had been severely affected by the Japanese air raids on Darwin in February 1942, with its headquarters, stores and spares all destroyed, the squadron's aircraft were undamaged, as they had been moved inland to Daly waters before the enemy raids, or had been over Timor on operations. By the time that Poole joined, the squadron was flying Bristol Beaufort and Lockheed Ventura aircraft, conducting anti-submarine and shipping patrols along the Australian east coast. They were also involved in reconnaissance, area searches and escort forces. In late May 1944, No. 13 Squadron moved to Cooktown in northeastern Queensland, before moving again to Gove in the Northern Territory in August. Here, Poole was involved in anti-submarine and escort patrols. When No. 1 Squadron withdrew to re-equip the Mosquito aircraft, Poole and his squadron were left with a heavy burden, responsible for providing all convoy cover in their area. On the 27th of January 1945, Poole was the navigator aboard a Lockheed Ventura that took off at about 5:30 on an operational flight. The regular pilot of the aircraft, Richard Rudge, later recalled that, although he was scheduled to make the flight with his crew, another pilot wanted to take the plane in order to meet someone. After some argument, the two pilots tossed a coin to decide who would go, and Flight Lieutenant George Anderson won the toss. 20 minutes after taking off, the aircraft returned and requested landing instructions. Shortly afterward, the aircraft struck the ground during a landing approach. It disintegrated and burned on impact. All those aboard were killed instantly. Flight Lieutenant George Anderson, Flying Officer Charles Watts, Flying Officer Murden Chowns, Leading Aircraftman James Pugh, Warrant Officer John Kay, and Flying Officer Bruce Poole, who was 28 years old. No. 13 Squadron suffered further tragedy that day when a Ventura engaged on a training exercise at Gove crashed into the sea. There were 3 survivors from the crash, one of whom later died of his injuries. Today, Flying Officer Bruce Lionel Poole's remains lie buried in the Adelaide River War Cemetery in the Northern Territory. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, among almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. His photograph is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Flying Officer Bruce Lionel Poole, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. Lest we forget.
We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the director, staff, and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support of the Memorials Development Project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.